Hi, all, and welcome to the Found Artist Files, the podcast that delves into real stories that inspire, uplift, and remind you that no matter who you are, your story matters. Every journey, no matter how big or how small, is worth celebrating. Here, we'll explore the powerful narratives of everyday people, artists, creators, and dreamers just like you, sharing the struggles, triumphs, and lessons learned along the way. So keep going, keep creating, and remember, you're crafting your own unique path, one story at a time. Let's dive in. Hey, everyone, and thank you so much for joining in on this week's episode. This week, we have Evan O'Brien. Hi, Evan.
Hey, Rachel. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for being here. Would love to start off just by going in a little bit more about who you are and what it is that you do in the industry.
Yeah. So I'm Evan. I work at Neon, and I work primarily in development these days. I started at Neon as the assistant to Tom Quinn, the CEO of the company, and that was, an assistant role, but also kind of a chief of staff kind of role, just liaising with the film teams, and the release teams, the marketing, publicity, distribution departments, just making sure that the release is on track, basically. But I've since specialized out of that into development specifically, which is still kind of a new thing at Neon, but it's burgeoning and it's exciting, and um, yeah, it's been great so far.
Awesome. And congratulations on that. Um, so I'd love to learn a little bit more about what even initially drew you to this career path.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure it's a similar story for a lot of folks, but I think um, it's basically as long as I can remember, I've just loved making movies. Like my brothers and I have two younger brothers, and one of our favorite things to do is just to pick up a camera, go outside and shoot stuff. Whether that's, like action fight choreography, rip-offs of like our favorite James Bond movies, or just like, you know, my brother just like picking his nose, whatever it was. And we just fell in love with the craft of filmmaking. I loved not just shooting, but putting it into iMovie. I became an iMovie wizard. And I loved the post-production of it all, and it just snowballed from there.
Yeah, and it's so funny that you said that because it really reminds me of even like my childhood or even what I say about NextFoundArtist. When people are like, oh, how'd you get into it? I was like, there's always two kids who get into film, right? There's the one who's sitting in front of the TV trying to consume as much as they can, or there's the one who's carrying around the camcorder trying to film as much as they can. Going back to USC, so was there one
Yeah.
experience that, really provided the most foundational skills for your career?
I don't know about one specific experience. I mean, at film school, there's a lot of advice and internet wisdom you can read about film school, and a lot of it's true, which is that uh, you can learn a lot of this stuff on YouTube, which is, true. But I think the thing that most people agree on about film school, that even some folks who maybe are kind of detractors of it, is that you you build a network with your peers there, just by making stuff with them, and they become your allies. And as you graduate and try to get into the business, which can be very, very difficult, you have a support system that's already built in, as opposed to just like moving to LA, moving to New York or wherever, just by yourself, just like throwing yourself into the deep end. That can be a lot more difficult without that kind of support system. So I would just say that was like at USC, that was the most helpful thing. But I had some great professors, and Jason Squire also. He has his the movie business book, which is a great book. I highly recommend everybody read it. I tell everyone that all the time. Uh, but he had a movie business class that really also like opened my mind to so many there's so many aspects of this business, um, that you don't think about. like distribution and marketing and the legal
So
and
much.
what an entertainment lawyer does, um, the waterfall, etc. Like these are all more esoteric pieces of knowledge that you don't really see on YouTube. And if you do, a lot of it's wrong. I've learned. But that book is very good.
Yeah, and one thing that you touched on that I really love is that people don't also really truly understand like the value of networking, but also the importance of
Hmm.
it from a lateral standpoint, not just a vertical standpoint. And so because
Yeah.
from a lateral standpoint, like you're all learning together, you're all creating together, you're all rising together, you're all helping each other evolve and
Yes.
grow together. So it's very nice to like have that experience and have that support. And, um, also just learning not just the creative story aspect, but also the true business and the industry aspect is super important
Yes.
when thinking about, creating a film. And, so from your experience, have there been any misconceptions in the movie business that surprised you or truths that you found unexpected?
Yeah. That's a great question. I just I haven't watched the studio yet. I need to, but
It
I
is,
saw this
yeah.
clip going around of Seth Rogen talking about um making the show, and he said something, a misconception that he realized was wrong, which I resonated with, was, you grow up as a lover of movies hearing all these stories about directors like battling the studios and these studio executives who were just like money grubbing, monsters who just like hate cinema. Um, and that's not true at all. That's Seth Rogen is very correct when he says that's not true. And you know, it makes sense because this business is so hard. It's so uncertain. Like if you're a money grubbing monster, you're not going to work in the movie business. You work in something, more, you go work for like McDonald's or something. I don't know. Like you do something that's more, or banking, something that's more sustainable and less risky. Um, but to have a high tolerance for risk like this, you have to really love it. And everyone in this business really does love movies, and they do, and something that Seth again said that was true was these studio executives often uh, come to these inflection points, these like spiritual battles where they have to decide, whether to go with something that they think is best for the art of the film, the voice of the filmmaker, the auteur sensibility, whatever it is, or what would you know work for a broader audience, like what are the test scores, etc. That might dilute, quote unquote, the artistic integrity of the film. And oftentimes they have to decide the latter, and they have to be the villain, and that sucks. That's not fun. But it's that age old battle of art and commerce. And what I've learned is, um, just for one instance, like the testing process, like testing a film. I haven't been at, I haven't seen this process up close at other companies, but the way we do it at Neon is it's very much just about the what's resonating with the audience that we can lean into for marketing purposes, and then B, if the movie's a work in progress, you know what is the director's intent coming across? Is It's not messing with the actual intent of the director or trying to tell them to make a movie that they don't want to make. It's just like, well, is the plot clear? Like, is it resonating? Does the audience understand that so and so character made this crucial decision at this time that fulfills their character arc, or whatever it is? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, and so like talking about the theater experience or just like being around other people who are like feeling that emotion and being able to, and it sort of actually aligned with
Yeah.
Sean Baker's speech that he said for
Hmm.
the Oscars, where
Yes.
it's like coming together and all watching the film together and just
Ah.
feeling
Yeah.
that energy allows for people to ultimately unite, right? So it's like we're all seeing something that can also bring us together, that can make us, we're all
Hmm.
laughing together, we're all crying together, we're all sharing that moment together. And it's actually such a wonderful and beautiful thing. And I think that,
Yeah.
um, from streaming kind of has taken a little bit of that away, obviously, because you're not together having that experience. But for you, when you guys are in that phase where you're like, okay, this is us to be able to move forward. Can you kind of explain a little bit more about the impact of greenlighting a project for society's consumption? Are you like, okay, well, together collectively, we all felt that energy of the people who were watching it together? Or is it just
Hmm.
something about like the story that you're like, no, we as a society really need to see this or really need to consume this? Like, what is sort of that impact of greenlighting?
Yeah, I mean, it's a big question. I mean, I think there are so many things we take into consideration when we decide to do a movie. And I should say we come on to movies at all different stages. We've come onto a movie at the script stage, and also we see it totally finished at a festival, and we decide to buy it then. So it's a wide range of scenarios. But I think it's like we try to visualize how it lands in a theatrical marketplace, what the poster looks like, what the trailer looks like, how does it compare to everything else that's out there, and how does it stick out? And that's like a very you know, intellectual exercise that's like studio brain. But part of that is like, well, what is the movie saying? Does it feel like it's saying something urgent, saying something different? Is it portraying something that we haven't seen before? Is it original? Does it have a voice? Is it authored? That's a term we throw around a lot. Um, and those are all the biggest considerations we think of for a neon movie. I mean, we're so big on originality, and but being original is hard because you're doing some. Often we will consider a film that has no comps. Comparison titles that typically that when you evaluate something, you say, well, what are the comps? What are the movies that this is like that you can point to, and what are their box office grosses? And will it be successful? And oftentimes we'll be like, well, there aren't a lot because this is very, very unique. And at that point, it becomes like, well, do you believe in it? Do you feel this in your gut? Do you have that forward thinking um, passion that you can just see it working? For example, at TriStar, you know, they distribute everything through Sony, which is a global company. And so they have a much narrower target to hit, which is that their movies have to work on a worldwide scale, which is kind of insane. Um, but at Neon, um, we can we're a domestic distributor. And so when we're considering films just for domestic distribution, we can just kind of think, okay, what works in that market?
Yeah, and that's really
Yeah.
interesting. Something that you just said about the difference of the distribution from an international standpoint versus domestic
Yeah.
standpoint, because that's one of the things that I don't think that people truly understand is that out of the whole population of the world, the US is only anywhere between 4 to 5% of the world's population. So if you are creating a film for global consumption, you do have to take in a lot of the other international research and all of that data into the films that you are creating. So it's very
Totally.
different approaches between more of a larger scale sort of an organization versus someone who's a little bit smaller. But obviously, Neon is growing worldwide as well, which is cool. And so, have you ever seen or like witnessed like strong opposing opinions for scripts greenlight?
Oh yeah, all the time. Yeah, we're a very passionate bunch, and we all have different sensibilities. Uh, which is always makes it very interesting. And we all bring something different to the table. Um, and it really, which is a huge strength, I think, of the company. You just have you know different perspectives. But yeah, I mean, it's always it's there are instances like there are instances where it's like a unanimous like this is great, obviously let's try and figure this out. But other times it's more of a battle, and that's where you know I've grown a lot, I think, because I might have an opinion that I'm passionate about, but then I have to go into the arena and defend it. And that makes my case sharper, my thinking sharper, um, and just helps me be a better advocate for the movies I want to bring forth.
So like when a script is coming in and you're going into like the arena, quote unquote, and then
The
you're like,
arena.
yeah, and you're like, okay, I'm in the room. I'm seeing which films
See,
that
yeah, yeah,
yeah, like which films are like coming
yeah,
to the table that people are super passionate about. Like for you, you're like, this is how movies are made. Like you're
yeah,
seeing like the whole process of it. Like what was that feeling like and that whole experience?
yeah. I mean, a certain like one of the first times I was in the room when something was under consideration, I was an intern, um, and the movie being discussed, um, it like I just saw that it wasn't this just pure passion play. Like there were just all of these considerations, and certain people on the team maybe didn't weren't in love with the movie, but they saw that it had potential to do business, and maybe it worked with the brand of the company. And so I just realized that, it was largely a very dispassionate evaluation process, which I was like, oh my gosh, yes, this makes sense. This is a business after all. Even though it can be a very romantic business, but it is still at the end of the day a business. And if you if you want to make movies, if you want to be a part of this business, you have to understand that side of it and understand that at the end of the day, a movie has to make money. And you're not gonna get things made unless you see it from that perspective, because you're asking for money, or you're at a studio and you have to put a lot of money into it, and it has to see a return. And it's not just even if you like break even, um, just barely. It's like, okay, you didn't lose money, but then you still had a whole team of people work on this movie for a long time. Um, and so it's not time wasted, or that's not what I'm saying, but it's just like it's just a big endeavor. It's a big commitment that you have to take very seriously. Um, but yeah, so that's what I've learned being in the room. And what I would say to younger folks who are maybe have a chance to be in the room and advocate for their viewpoint. I think it can be easy to hear no, or just be like, yeah, but X, Y, and Z, let's not do it, and think that that's the end. You can't counter that. I've often found that you can really push further than you think you can, and really drive something you believe in, um, through a deeper consideration process. Like you can say, like, okay, I understand your argument, but I don't think you're considering these things. And suddenly that might open someone else's eyes who's like, oh yeah, that is interesting. I haven't thought about it that way. So, just don't be discouraged by hearing, no, I don't get it. That doesn't make sense, once or twice. Um, I think my boss at TriStar told me that his boss told me, my job is to say no. So you have to, like, my job is to make you steel man the case incredibly effectively. Um, because like I said, it's a huge commitment to commit to a film. So, just I don't take no for an answer, basically.
Yeah.
There comes a limit and you'll really know it when you've reached that point. I have. Um, but there's more room for you to advocate than you likely think there is.
Totally love that. And one of the things that I've definitely have said to like emerging artists is that if you're not your biggest fan, if you're not advocating for yourself, then no one else is going to. And it's also if you don't ask for what it is that you want, you're also never going to receive that. So it's also if you get a no in one scenario,
Hmm.
that doesn't mean that you should completely put that away and that it will never get made or that it's never not it could just be not the right time or not the right fit. So it's actually a blessing in disguise that someone said no, because then you're opening up the
Yeah.
door for the right thing to come through or for the right opportunity for it to be created.
Yeah. If you advocate for something, say you advocate for a movie, and everyone's like, "No, you're wrong," and then someone else does the movie, and it's a huge success. Like you can be bitter about it, and you can be like, "See, I was right," and to an extent, that is true. Maybe you were right, but at the end of the day, it is your responsibility to convince people of your viewpoint. If people around you aren't seeing it, then you're not making the case as good as you could. Like you just have to adopt responsibility to make people see your perspective, make people see the vision that you're seeing. Just like push, be specific. Don't just
Have
leave it
intention.
up.
Yeah.
Yeah, have intention. Don't
Yeah.
just like leave it up to everyone else to shoulder it. You have to shoulder it. Um, and you'll learn a lot through those processes. You'll fall on your face. You'll make an ass of yourself. I've done that plenty of times. Just I've learned a lot. That's the best way to learn is just get out there and get in the ring.
Yeah, absolutely. Have there been any directors or specific films that you're truly inspired by some of their storytelling that you've been able to like be a part of or that you've witnessed?
Yeah, I mean, uh, gosh, I mean, all the time. I mean, Sh Sean is the most obvious example. I mean, what he's done is so inspiring. And seeing him, like you said earlier, his director's speech, just making it a tribute to theatrical cinema was just so inspiring. And that's it just affirmed everything about my career and what my values have been. And for example, what I figured out for myself was I just had to be in working in the theatrical film space. Like I just wanted to make movies for theaters and just be in an industry that values that. That was my bottom line. But everyone was telling me, "Oh, you got to go work in TV. That's where all the jobs are." You know, the theatrical films like it's a post-COVID world. Theaters are dying. You should go work in TV. And I was kind of like, yeah, but uh, I don't believe you. I think movies in theaters are important still, and I think people will still want to go see them in theaters. And trends will come and go, but your passion stays. And so you have one life, you have one chance to get really good at something. So just like stick to that. Just,
Yeah.
it's worked at least for me. But
It's why we can
um
keep doing what we're doing. It's like you have to be passionate about it and you have to love it. And
yeah,
it's, yeah. And I mean, one thing that we talk about is like, there's just so much joy about watching films with other people, whether that's in a theater or in like, one thing that we were talking about is how much we miss like drive-in theaters, right? Like, so those were sort of
yeah,
a
yeah,
big thing during COVID, which is
yeah,
getting everyone together to be able to watch it in like outside, whether it was like a pop-up event or just like a drive-in, but there is nothing like that experience of watching them together. And theaters really
yeah.
do. I absolutely hope that theaters don't go away because I remember going to the theater every single week growing up. Like that was like my favorite thing to do
Yes.
every single weekend. Like I
Yeah.
loved that. We had like a local theater and there was only two movie theaters in the actual theater. It was a super small one, but I was like, but it just like, it felt like home. And so you don't
Hmm.
really,
Yeah.
those go away. What is that? Like, what is that for the next generation? Like to have that opportunity, like it's so for people to say, oh, don't make theater or theatrical releases anymore, it's like that's sad to hear because there was so much joy, at least for myself growing up, being able to
Yeah.
go and experience that.
Yeah. I love that. And it's short-sighted too, because what we know now is that movies that have a full theatrical release do better on the streaming
Yeah.
services than
Yep.
just the straight to streaming movies.
Yeah.
So if you want to drive up values for your streaming service, you got to do a full theatrical run. Um,
I
and
want to ask you about that really quickly though.
sure.
For like from a full theatrical run, what is that for you or for the team at Neon? Like, what does that mean? What is that length? What is that like, sweet spot for it to be a
Yeah.
theatrical full run?
Yeah. I mean, we're obviously a theatrical forward company, and it's the foundation of our business. But I think talking about Tom again, but he pioneered a lot of these different strategies, these different release strategies of shortening the windows between theatrical and digital distribution, etc. And so, you know, it's really just at the end of the day, it is about what is best for the film. Um, sometimes that means a super long, protracted theatrical film, and sometimes it means it's a bit shorter. But I think um, as long as there's that foundational theatrical ethos that filmmakers believe we have and that we stick to, um, however long the window is, whether it's 17 days, or we typically don't do that, but 17 days or 45 or 90 or whatever, that's you know it's if the ethos is there, then everyone will win in the long run.
And last question is, can you share a pivotal moment from your childhood that influenced your path?
Oh, uh I mean, so many. I mean, I think one that just stood out to me was um, South by Southwest, which is a wonderful festival. Um, I don't know if they do this anymore. I hope they do. They had this Texas high school section. It was just for Texas high school filmmakers. Um, but if
That's
you
awesome.
got a short film into that section, you 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 were an official selection at South by Southwest. It wasn't like a separate thing. It was like you got the platinum South by badge. You got all of the benefits of being a South by filmmaker, but you're like a high schooler. And so having a film I made uh, get to the screening was cool, but it's like a high school section. It's just like the filmmakers and their parents. But seeing it in the theater is awesome. But just being at the festival and going to all these screenings and meeting all of these filmmakers and being in this community and being in a scene and feeling like you're part of this thriving ecosystem, um, was was just really beautiful, and it was definitely a pivotal moment for me, I think, as a young filmmaker, just being like, oh, this is like a whole world um, that I can I can become a part of in some major way, and I can have a major impact in it because I'm here. Like that's self-evident enough that like I can do this, you know. So
Love that. And
yeah,
and I love also like for people who are listening, like the importance of film festivals and that there's over 2,300 film festivals in the world. Like
yes,
going to them and just experiencing them, and it's like no
absolutely.
matter. Yeah, no matter what community that you enjoy or that you want to be able to, consume, there is something for everyone. So to still go to that and like be able to just to have that experience and just meet artists is just such a wonderful experience. So like I love that you were able to do that in high school.
Yeah, no, it was, and I would also say, I mentioned South by, which is like a major, major festival, but like you said, there are so many festivals out there that are doing really the Lord's work. They're, there are these just extraordinarily passionate people who put so much time into these festivals that are so worth going to that, maybe don't get get headlines and deadline or anything, but are, I would even argue, more important than some of these bigger festivals because the
Agreed.
it, there's just no barriers. There's no like the access is all there, and some of these festivals program, I think, better stuff than the big ones, and so you can really open your eyes to so many things that's out there, so many perspectives, so many voices, um, and so many filmmakers from around the world, um, and connect with those people. And that is, yeah, just such a beautiful thing. So um, don't discount your small local festival. Go to it. Definitely go.
Yeah, awesome. Well, that's amazing advice, and I really appreciate you being here. Thank you so much for your time. Thanks so much for being you, and to everyone listening, always be you. Thanks very much, everyone.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thanks for listening. Did you enjoy this week's journey? So do we. So head on over to our YouTube channel where you'll find an extended version of this week's episode. And don't forget to give us a follow on all of our other socials at NextFoundArtist. Also, head on over to our website, nextfoundartist.com, to find and watch independent films from your next favorite artist.